Okay, before we start the chanting, I will say this so I don't forget that tomorrow is my mother's 87th birthday, 31st of August, 1938 she was born. So we can say happy birthday to Mum. And this evening we will have order in pizza, a couple of pizzas, which we'll also eat tomorrow. That was her wish for eating. And so we tend to do that pretty much every birthday, including mine, actually. And so I thought I'd mention that now, and now we can do the chanting. Before meditations and Dharma Talk, of course, continuing the commentary on Master Atisha's heart advice, of which we will we'll finish up today, actually, the actual lines, the 47 lines altogether. And but then we'll have a few conclusions, okay? Where we'll actually go through it, and I'll get you to, we utilize the 3 wisdom tools as you listen to the teachings and contemplate them, and then of course absorb your mind with them. We'll do that very briefly throughout the 47, so maybe that'll take a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Before we move on to the next subject, which will be meditation and its benefits, getting to know your mind. So commentary on my long article on this that I wrote in 2016, I think, for the, forget the name now, Metta Volakanaya Buddhist magazine, which is made in Sri Lanka. Okay, so anything else I need to mention? Probably not, it's fine. So we'll have this commentary, and that's all. Let's do the chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami, Dudayambi buddham saranam gacchami, Dudayambi dhammam saranam gacchami, Dudayambi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, about to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, about to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, about to master them all. However endless the Buddhist way is, about to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Om Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhe Soha. Tayata Om Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi Soha. Tayata Om Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi Soha. So yes, the other thing is the weather last night was terrible down here. Really big winds, lots of rain. And in fact, we had some damage, hopefully no damage to the house. I haven't looked actually, but I don't think so. But the back garage, we have one garage, which Mum's car is kept in there, that's attached to the house. And the back garage used to be actually the garage for Mum and Dad's caravan, for when they used to travel around Australia after they retired. So it's quite large. And I keep my car in there and other things, of course. Anyway, yeah, one of the sheets blew off. Or in fact, two sheets actually blew off. One blew loose. It's fixed now, that one. And another one was damaged. I think bent, and maybe something flew into it or something, because it looks like it's got some dents in it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite wild. And of course, unfortunate, we get these things in our lives we don't want. Of course, it will probably cost quite a bit to fix, but that is life. And I don't really watch the news, but I imagine that there's been quite a bit of damage throughout the state, especially down the south coast here of Victoria. So anyway, I hope that the people are safe, nobody's hurt or died, and that their property is not too badly damaged if it is damaged. Of course, a lot of these things happening around the world, more so than before. And of course, they've always happened around the world. Natural disasters such as, damaging winds and cyclones and so on. But it's happening more and more and more with global warming and climate change, unfortunately. So I hope that we, as human beings, collectively can change this, at least lessen the damage or the quickness of the warming. I can't believe really there's still some people around that don't believe in this stuff, actually fight against it. It's really bad. It's really very dumb. Definition of one of the definitions you could say of madness, really. And anyway, and of course, some of these people are in control of countries and states and whatnot. It's really bad, really ridiculous, really. So anyway, we need to create less pollution, but also we need to stop destroying nature, stop the mining and things like that so much, stop destroying forests. For the trees, one of the main thing that actually eats up the pollution and turns it into oxygen. Excuse my layman's terms there. So anyway, we need to do our best, even ourselves, first of all, mentally, we need to face reality, even if it's inconvenient. We don't want this global warming. We don't want pandemic. We don't want natural disasters, but we need to face up and see them for what they are, and try our best to, first of all, mentally, like I said, but also physically and verbally, to stop anything that we are doing, even if it's tiny, like for instance, making sure that we're recycling things that can be recycled, things like that. Very small compared to the world, but still good action, good karma we are creating, but also doing just a little tiny bit to stop the pollution or lessen the pollution. And also encourage others, to do likewise, even if they don't agree with it. Doesn't matter, still plant a seed, I've come into contact with some people down the beach that don't agree with this type of stuff. And I just say, oh, you just have to open your eyes, because they don't like what I say, but that's okay. I do it with a smile and with gentleness and friendliness. So hopefully it leaves an imprint. In the future, they can wake up. And also, like I said, destroying less. We need to consume less for a start. Don't always have to have a new TV, a new laptop. I did need to have this new laptop, unfortunately. But, just use things to their fullest, and then you can replace them. Of course, the companies really do make things. We have to be really honest about this. I'll face it again, is they probably make these things to break down at some stage so they can sell the new one, unfortunately, get away with it. But yeah, like I said, if we can pollute less, if we can consume less, then of course this doesn't help the economy. But economy is such a made-up thing, this so-called global economy, whatever. We won't have any economy if we don't have a planet with the conditions for us to live on, such as clean air and water and so on. No such thing as economy. So do the best that we can, consume less, and also, if you don't have many trees around you, then plant some. Or encourage others to plant it if you live in a flat or something, Anyway, I wasn't going to say these things, but I got on a little roll there, and to do with the sort of the weather, extreme weather, and therefore I'm looking at the camera here, the computer. My eyes are so scratchy from the winds. I just came back in from outside checking the damage before. I initially thought it was just one of the sheets that come loose on the side of the garage, and so I called our friend who's a plumber and roof tiler and roofing guy, and he came to secure it. But then as I looked out there, I saw all the extra damage too, so I had to deal with that a bit. Anyway, let's do some meditation. Realize that all of these things I just mentioned are impermanent. That even if they are satisfactory for a short time, and they are unsatisfactory when they're conditioned by the law of karma, cause, condition, and effect. And then there is no substance to be found, no self to be found anywhere. Things are always changing, becoming something else. Even if you just think about thoughts, which is actually quite deep, this thought we're having right now comes from previous thoughts and comes together because of many different stimuli, you could say. Maybe because of the words I'm speaking. Maybe because of your own thoughts from the past. Maybe because you've learned something new in the present. So this thought comes from previous thoughts, leads to more thoughts. Everything's impermanent. If it was permanent, then we couldn't release the tension in the body, which we're about to do. So let's bring the mind inside the body and release this impermanent, unsatisfactory, and no self tension from the bottom of the body up to the top. Try to remain still as you practice this meditation. So from the feet all the way up your legs and up to your shoulders. As you focus on these different areas, just release whatever tension you may have. Down to the tips of your fingers. and up to your neck, and all around your face and so on, up to the crown of your head. And now scan your body really quickly from the bottom to the top to see if you've left any tension there. If you have, and you can release it, then do so. And now bring your mind to the tip of your nose initially, and follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose, all the way into your lungs and back out your nose again. If thoughts arise as you do this, don't cling to them or grasp at them, try to force them away either, or deny them, but simply and naturally let them go as you replace your mind back onto the breath. And if your mind becomes dull, then wake it up a little bit by refocusing on your breath more brightly. You can also add the extra technique of counting the breaths from 1 up to 10. But if you get distracted on the way towards 10, go back to 1 at that time. So let's practice in silence for a little bit. So we can feel pleased with ourselves for engaging in the short breath meditation session and fill ourselves with universal loving kindness, utilizing the white light to fill your whole body and mind, your whole being with the white light, which represents this universal loving kindness. It includes forgiveness, respect, appreciation, gratitude, gentleness, harmlessness, and so on. Not separate from compassion and joy, based on equanimity. Really feel it. Your body and your mind should feel very light, gentle. And now let's radiate this universal loving kindness outwards. So radiate this white light from your heart center and enters into the heart centers of your loved ones, family and friends that you visualize in front of you. Filling their whole being with the universal loving kindness too. Visualize that they are happy, that they are free from suffering and are peaceful. I really have this wish too, that they are happy, free from suffering and peaceful. And now also include strangers and do likewise. And those people you may regard as enemies too, and do likewise. And now we can extend this loving kindness out beyond just human beings to include all sentient beings. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born. Radiate this universal loving kindness in the form of the white light, or utilizing the white light from your heart center, entering into their heart centers and filling their whole being with this universal loving kindness. This happiness and freedom from suffering, this peace. All sentient beings around your immediate area, whether they live on the land, in the waters, fly through the air, or born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. All the sentient beings, excluding none. And now let's increase our extension and radiation of this loving kindness out further and further distance-wise throughout our whole state or county. And all of the states and counties throughout our country. And all of the countries throughout the world. Those you're familiar with and have an affinity towards, those you're indifferent towards, and those that for whatever reason you may have some negative feelings about. And have your loving kindness also pervade throughout all of the waterways, the oceans and so on, down to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. And throughout the whole solar system, and galaxy and universe and beyond. Now your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space, this immeasurable loving kindness beyond limit. And also recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Okay, so because I spoke a fair bit up front, only Dharma Talk's about 15 minutes, I imagine. But we'll cover everything, so no problem. We've covered so much during this teaching. I looked at when we started it. We actually started it on my birthday, when I turned... I'm only joking, I don't mind my age, 63. So on April 25, on April 5. So what's it now? Almost September. So we've spent almost 5 months on this commentary on Master Atisha's teachings. And so we've gone through quite a lot of detail, obviously. And we've covered pretty much what we're about to cover today as well, really, because it all interrelates, all interconnected. So when you now listen to the commentary, we're not going to do like put into practice the 3 wisdom tools as we've done before and will do next week. But hear it, okay? I remind you to hear the Dharma without having opinions, without twisting it, without basing it on, I like this, I don't like that, It's like an empty, clean pot, the right way up. Not a dirty pot that has all of your opinions and mental afflictions messing with the Dharma. Just like if you are pouring pure milk into curdled milk, the pure milk becomes curdled. So the pure Dharma becomes tainted, by our own opinions and things. And also not a pot, wrong way up, means you're not paying attention. Or a pot with holes means you're not going to remember anything. Have a pot right way up with no holes. That's how we listen, we should listen to all of the Dharma talks, whether it's, directly, even just recitation of sutras, things like that, or whether it's commentaries on the internet like this, or in person, or listening to CDs or anything like that, okay? We should listen with pure intentions and to help ourselves to understand. Contemplate later. And if you don't agree with something, let me know. We either clarify, or maybe you can teach me. Okay, no problem. So the 4 that we have a look at today, the last 4, you should consider this well, because it is not just words from the mouth, but sincere advice from the heart. If you practice like this, you will delight me, and you will bring happiness to yourself and others. I, who am ignorant, request you to take this advice to heart. This is the advice that the holy being, Venerable Atisha, gave to Venerable Jang Chub Ö. Obviously, one of his students, but there would have been other people in the audience. I didn't look up like the history of this actual teaching, whether it has sort of like a setup of the assembly, or where the question came from, what the question actually was. I haven't looked that up. I've just paid attention over the years to just the teaching. But you can look it up if you like. I don't know if it's available, whether it's just this bare teaching that has been recorded, written down. But obviously, Venerable Jang Chub, he would have been one of the chief disciples, I imagine, of Master Atisha. And he asked the question for basically pith advice or heart advice. And so the Master Atisha, gave him this teaching for the benefit of whoever was there, and also for the benefit after it was written down. For us, for instance, for our benefit today and throughout the last 5 months. That'll do for that. So I covered the last line first, and then the second last line I'll cover now. I am who am ignorant, request you to take this to heart. So what he's doing is the Master's basically saying that, he's being humble, and that you could say he's nothing more than his students are, apart from he's got more experience, maybe purified the mind more, and so on. But we all have a Buddha nature. Remember that, like water, for instance, like the ocean. Let's use the example of an ocean. The ocean in the cold months, in some parts of the world where it's really cold, really freezing, it freezes. And it can take on many different shapes. You've seen some of those, what are they called? Icebergs, and other formations of ice and so on. What are they called? Stalagmites and gelagmites? I can't remember now, actually. Where they hang down, they like a sort of a cone. And then there's squares and there's circles and triangles, all sorts of shapes. And hard. This kind of like, you could say, okay, we all take on different shapes and sizes due to our karma. But actually, when the weather warms up, what happens to that ice in all those different shapes? and sizes, just becomes part of the ocean again, just becomes the water again. So in this, similarly, the water, like this, is the Buddha nature. We all have this Buddha nature. But, due to our conditions that we've created ourselves through our karma in the past, then we take on different shapes and conditions and so on right now. But we all have the Buddha nature. So he's being humble by saying this, and also he's saying that you should take this advice to heart. In a sense, his teachers gave him the same advice or similar advice, maybe using some different examples and words and so on. But the Dharma teachings go back to the Buddha, even prior to him, the previous Buddhas. Okay, so this is the advice for us to unveil our Buddha nature. So this isn't just saying, do what I say. This is basically saying, you have the Buddha nature. Just like all of these different manifestations of water, like ice and so on, is just water. Okay, you have the potential. You put this into advice. You take to heart, and then you practice this advice, implement these teachings, and then you yourself will uncover your Buddha nature, realize the ultimate truth. We have to obviously purify our mind. We have to recognize our good qualities that we have already and utilize them. They have come from good karma, from merit accumulation, and utilize them to increase them and to realize more good qualities that we need on the path to enlightenment, need to accumulate. And also realize our faults so that we know what it is that we need to decrease and eventually eradicate. Once again, you say in short form, or I say in short form, what to pick up and what to put down. And you can add to that what to increase, what to decrease, what to perfect and what to eradicate. This relates a little bit to the third last line. If you practice like this, you will delight me. So the master's saying here, there's nothing that will delight him more than to see you actually put these teachings into practice and realize the truth, realize the fruit of the path to enlightenment. Realize, first of all, the relative truth that all things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, have no self, and also realize that this path to enlightenment is immaculate, that we need to understand the methods to be practiced and how to implement them, and then implement them. And then he will also delight in when you realize the fruit of this path, when you realize unsurpassed supreme enlightenment yourself, when you unveil your Buddha nature that you have already. The Buddha nature hasn't diminished just because we've covered it up with afflictions. It still remains and will always and has always remained immaculate and perfect. So, you will bring happiness to yourself and others. This relates to what I was saying before about what to pick up, what to put down, and so on. We want the causes of happiness. So this is now talking about relative truth. We want happiness, so we want to engage in the causes of happiness, and we want others to do likewise. Engage in good actions, be generous, be moral, patient, enthusiastic, and persevere. Develop good concentration and realize supreme wisdom, and so on. Accumulate this loving kindness and compassion and joy, equanimity. And this will result in temporary happiness right now. Eventually we have the happiness or the bliss of nirvana, or enlightenment, supreme enlightenment. And also we will obviously avoid causing unhappiness and suffering for ourselves and others. And so we should encourage others and be a good example for others. by putting these teachings into practice. So if you practice like this, you will delight me, he says, and you will bring happiness to yourself and others. Excuse me. And the fourth last line says, you should consider this well. You should consider this well, because it is not just words from the mouth, but sincere advice from the heart. So he's basically, reiterating that this advice is like real. It's really beneficial for you to understand this teaching, for you to really be enthused by this teaching, find joy in the practice, and actually implement this teaching. Then it's not just blah, 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 just speaking these words, these phrases, giving these examples, utilizing this type of expression. It's not just that, but it is real advice that leads, if put into practice, leads to enlightenment, to realizing your own true nature. So even though the last four lines kind of, what time is it? Even though the last four lines sound so simple, they really are pointing to you realizing the fruit of the path, realizing and unveiling your Buddha nature by developing this relative bodhicitta, marrying it with the supreme wisdom, and realizing the ultimate citta, the ultimate awakened mind. You should consider this well, because it is not just words from the mouth, but sincere advice from the heart. If you practice like this, you will delight me, and you will bring happiness to yourself and others. I, who am ignorant, request you to take this to heart. This is the advice that Master Atisha gave to Venerable Jang Chub. Okay, so Jang Chub Sempa means bodhisattva, okay, in Tibetan. So Jang Chub is like bodhicitta type thing, great compassion. Okay, and so I know we're under a minute just now. So I hope you've enjoyed this teaching. Once again, I will reiterate it a little bit and conclude it. But also, because we've spent 5 months on it, I think it's important to do as we've done before with other subjects, these conclusions, and be thorough with them without repeating too much. Okay. So take care. Look after your mind. Look after your body. And I rejoice in your meritorious goodness as always. Keep up the good work, with the Dharma study and Dharma practice, Dharma sharing. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya.